But see, this is why, and let me be clear because I don't want everybody saying, "Oh, Jason invited Angela on the show to talk about all her relationships." No, I've been privileged to see Angela in public a few times. I don't just see a person in public and look at them. I watch them when I'm in the room. I just saw you recently at Floyd Mayweather's birthday party in Miami. You always seem very confident. You always seem very solid, and to some extent, I mean, I don't think I've ever really seen a lot of emotion from you. And I'm like, okay, like either Angela's out here moving like we move in, you know what I mean? Or she just has this level of confidence that I want every woman who follows me to get. You know what I mean? And I really like the fact that you've never, publicly been messy. Like, I don't know, you just really have done a really good job of moving around, and I just want to
Thank you.
know where that came from. Is that from your upbringing? Is that from your own
Mm.
self desire to be a great woman? What is it?
I mean, I could easily say definitely upbringing, but more importantly too, it's like I don't need to be in that like messiness. Like it's real easy based off of any situation I've been in. Easily, you could be messy and go to your social media and just be going off. But like, I don't have time for that. Like, I would rather put my energy into what I do. Like, if you want to be messy on the other side, then I allow that person to be messy. You know what I mean? Because what does that do for me? It's not helping me. So I would rather just stay in my own world, do my thing, enjoy myself, be out and about, see you out at parties. You know what I mean? Like I'm minding my business. Period. Like I'm always gonna mind my business, and I'm always going to just mind my business. Like
But
I do. Like I do.
But do you think you stay out of all that because you're not a real mixy person? Like sometimes for people, well, you grew up in fame and then you became famous on your own. I mean, so like you don't need to be mixy. Do you think it's a lot of people that do you think you've stayed out of a lot of stuff because you're not a mixy person?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been involved in stuff as well, but I also know how to ignore it or like handle it on the spot. Like I'm not about to take what I'm dealing with to the public. Like for what? Unless it gets out there, and even then, I don't need to comment on it. Like it's nobody's business. If somebody wants to out me or speak about me publicly, that's on you. Like I'm grown enough to get on the phone and have a conversation. Like we can handle it like adults, or you could talk about it publicly. I'm not that girl. Like I'm not about to go and address you.
All right, so let's talk really quick. One more thing. I know that you've talked really publicly about being in an abusive relationship. We've had people here on the show who have been survivors. I don't say victims of domestic violence. With that relationship, what did you learn about yourself going through a relationship that was abusive?
I learned what I just said, the never say never stuff, because you never know that you're going to be that person until you're in it. And then once you're in it, I feel like you make excuses to stay. And if there's anyone who's watching who's in one or, stuck in it, like you really got to find someone that you can like go to talk to, because if you're stuck in it alone, you're stuck in it. Like, you know what I mean? And it's a tough place to be in. And like physical abuse is not the only thing that's abusive. Mental abuse is very real and can put you in isolation. And I think it's really important that you don't get stuck there, But yeah, I definitely been through that. And I couldn't believe I was that girl and I was going through that. Like I just couldn't have ever imagined it. But it was definitely a tough space for me to be in. But I found my way out, and I decided I wanted to speak on it more after a while, publicly, when I started my Pressure Makes Diamonds program, because I realized there are so many other women out there that are going through the same thing but don't have these discussions. And so in private rooms, I like to speak about this more in detail, because I know there are other women like me that are going through things, but we need to uplift each other. You know what I mean? Like we need to be there for one another. Like you got to hear that the girl next to you or the woman next to you may be going through the same thing, but afraid to speak up because they don't know that, you would understand or even understand why that person's still there. A lot of times kids can play a role. Not having enough financial stability. So many things play a role, but I just feel like when women come together and have these conversations, then there's awareness and then you have a support group. Because the most important part to me is having a support group, most definitely.
Was it abuse to the extent that you were like punched or like bruised and battered abuse? Or because again, I think going back to our original question, like earlier, I look at you as being so strong and independent, and there are a lot of women out there. One of my sisters, Belinda, who was also beaten by her man, she seemed strong and came from a strong family. We didn't know she was getting beaten until we found out. Was it that bad, or
Yeah.
was it more? It was.
Well, hands thrown, I mean, hands used, and I wouldn't say punched, but hands used and things thrown at me and stuff like that, like
Mm.
enough where there were bruises, you know what I mean? But it wasn't okay and it definitely wasn't right. And, I knew when enough was enough.
How did you get the strength to walk away from that situation?
Just repetitiveness. You know what I mean? I think just after a while, being afraid, being scared, that's not fun. There's so many different things that will finally lead a person to say, you know what, this isn't for me.
Mm. And I know that you've not talked about you haven't said the person's name publicly. Is that because you want to give them some grace and you don't want to open up a whole other can of worms, or is it just that that wasn't the focus point of you coming out and sharing your story?
Yeah, it's definitely not the focus. I would never speak on names, but the point is definitely for other women to be strong enough and to be there for one another to help each other. I don't think the person, whoever did it, is important for me to discuss, but I do feel like the message is bigger and it's much larger than just me.